Go.
Okay. Well, it's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Michael Judd, running for Councillor Ward 7.
And I'm Ann Brown. I'm Executive Director for the Kingston Youth Shelter.
Excellent. So the community has some questions, so do I, because I live in the community. And maybe we can just go down the list, and
Sure.
then we can get some highlights on what you think it might add to the community.
Sure.
And first off, the community wants to know, will the facility open 24/7?
So the facility will be open mostly 24 hours a day. During the day, the youth are not always in the space because they have opportunities to seek assistance elsewhere in the community. So there's the One Roof opportunities and Restart and Resolve counseling services. So we don't have counselors on staff here until 4 o'clock in the afternoon when the youth are coming back into the programming. Now we do have a prevention diversion worker and a family mediation worker who will work with youth, but they're not necessarily homeless youth at the time that they're working with them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then our management staff will also work out of here. So management staff operate normal Monday to Friday hours. So on the weekends there'll be less.
And at the nighttime, they have the opportunity to sleep here
yeah,
and
it's an
have
emergency
a
shelter.
safe place.
Yeah, that's right. It's
Okay.
an emergency shelter.
What ages are going to be accepted at the shelter and be able to access the services?
We serve youth from the ages of 16 to 24.
Okay, excellent. That was actually quite a big question. I got that from a lot of people.
Yeah.
Will offenders be taken in here, and or will it ever be used as a halfway house?
It is not a halfway house, no. There may be opportunity when youth are released from detention that they might have to access our services because they're released without a housing plan when they're released from custody. I can't say.
Any level of offender, or?
I can't say that. Yeah, because it would depend on if they have restrictions of pertaining to the other people who are accessing the
from authority
service.
and
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
that makes good sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Will it be a drug and alcohol-free zone?
Yes.
Well, excellent. Will it be co-ed?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. Don't want to drop anybody off.
Nope.
And there's two questions here. What are the qualifications of the site and the site manager, the staff, things like that? Are they certified in what they're doing, or just volunteers? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, the staff are all, aside from me, trained in social services. So they have either a social work diploma, degree, psychology degree, master's level, all around that. Me, the executive director, I'm more of the business person.
No problem.
And then they all have training on, well, not everybody, but mostly everybody has training in specialized areas like trauma-informed care and crisis intervention and suicide assist and CPR and naloxone training, all those kinds of things.
Anything to avoid the problems that they have.
Yeah, or at least be able to respond appropriately when they do happen.
And you're at the business end, and then professionals in the given field needed.
Yes.
Okay.
I also have training in suicide assist and naloxone and safe talk and all that
That's
kind
good.
of stuff.
I actually want to get naloxone myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got CPR. I've got a number of other ones in first aid and so on. But that's something I would like to get.
Yeah.
It really hasn't been out there that long.
No.
Okay. What protections and protocols will be in place to protect those visiting the facility and the community? Or is there any considerations there for that?
Yes. So one of the reasons why this property was so appealing to us is because we could space out the youth to meet health guidelines, public health guidelines in infection control. So the youth have individual sleeping spaces instead of dormitory style sleeping. Is that the kind of things, protections you're wanting in place?
Yeah, I think so. And especially now that you've mentioned the range is 6 to 24, that's quite a range.
It is,
And
yes.
there can be interactions that might not necessarily be wanted.
Exactly. So we have 2 separate sleeping areas. So one larger, one smaller. They're not designated in terms of gender. That could be gender specific, but there are lots of people that don't have any specific gender identity.
Yeah.
So
And there's privacy and security
yes,
attached with
exactly.
those. Okay.
Yeah, and then we'll also have some other spaces in case somebody comes in that's of higher needs, that needs to have a little bit more visual attention from the staff and away from the rest of the group.
I think I read that in an article in the Whig Standard that
Yeah.
1 or 2 that could be monitored at a higher level.
Yes.
Okay. Along that lines, as far as the community is concerned, on the exterior, not the interior, as I understand, there's a higher need for privacy and protection of the individuals here. Others don't need to know this sort of stuff. Will there be any CCTV monitoring on the outside?
We'll likely have a camera at the door just so that staff, mostly staff safety, so that they know who's at the door before they get there. Other than that, we haven't had CCTV cameras at any of our other locations.
And that there hasn't been an issue. People did mention it about potential for drugs and things like that.
Yeah.
Now that it's becoming a larger facility,
Yeah.
that it could possibly be a target for people selling those things.
Yes, well, and that's a valid concern, yes. And if we saw the need for it, we would certainly address that. We
Okay.
haven't seen the need for it in our current locations that we've been at, so I'm hopeful that it's not going to be needed in the future, but we're always looking at our safety protocols because it's important to us, not only the safety of our staff, the youth, but the community around us also.
Okay. And then along that line, you said shelters. How many youth shelters are there actually in Kingston to help?
We are the only youth shelter.
Oh, that's it.
There are other shelters, but
Yeah.
they're for adults.
Over 24.
Yeah.
Okay. Will any assistance, I think you alluded to this, be offered to the people that stay here as far as job training, job seeking, things like that, allowing them to get into the community and become adults
Yes.
productively?
Yes, indeed. So the youth, our counselors help the youth get to the point where they're able to seek that assistance. So sometimes they come to us, they don't have any ID, they don't have a birth certificate, they don't
Resume.
have, well, not even that level of complexity. They don't have a birth certificate, they don't have a social insurance number.
Wow.
All the things that you need to have in order to get access to resources, funding resources. So if they needed ODSP or Ontario Works, if they need those things. So our counselors help them get to that stage. They help them realize what their barriers are and where to direct them to help break down those barriers.
Okay, and I guess this gives them an address as well, which they need to get
Yes.
access
Indeed.
to a lot of those government funded services.
Yeah. Yeah, and so if they need to use a computer, if they need to use Wi-Fi to get those things, we help them with those things. Some of them are not even ready to seek outside assistance. Like, it's a very big deal. It's a very traumatic experience for youth to have to come to a shelter in the first place. So it's a very personal time for them, and we try to nurture them as much as we can to make sure that they're ready to take those next steps. We also have 2 transitional houses that we operate, so if we get some youth that are ready to start building those skills to live independently, we have one house that's for younger people with very limited skills, like some of these folks need to be told when to have a shower.
Okay.
Like very basic skills. And then we have another one for more independent people where they learn how to budget, how to do their own groceries, how to do their laundry, what do you need to do to keep your house clean, just some very basic skills so that they're successful independent living.
there's some adults that might do with that.
You bet there are. You bet they are.
Quite a few maybe.
Yeah, so we try to keep them moving.
Yeah.
Like people who stay in the shelter have to have a plan, or have to have the desire to have a plan for housing.
Okay. Some life skills that they can
Yeah.
bring with them.
Yeah.
Okay, and the last one, this is actually a pretty big one, is have there been any serious changes at the current location? And mainly the concern is around violence, crime, drugs, things like that. And what was the result? How was it dealt with?
You mean have we had
Yeah.
changes that are prompting us to?
Challenges.
Oh, challenges.
Challenges. Have you run into any big challenges at the current location?
Well, our biggest challenge right now is we don't have enough space to meet the needs of the community. So and we've known that for quite a bit of time, that we don't have enough space, and COVID really put a fine point on that because of infection controls. So that we have been moving around for the past 3 years in temporary locations because our location on Brock Street wouldn't accommodate the number of youth that needed help.
Okay, and then crimes, drugs like that, have you had any challenges there?
No more than normal, you know. The youth that we serve are sometimes not in their best mental health and will have some erratic behaviors, but oftentimes they're not in control of those behaviors when they do that. No more than normal, really.
And you have protocols and measures in place to
Absolutely.
deal with that, to protect them and the community.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's basically the questions we have, or the community that I've received so far anyways, and some of them, of course, are my own.
Yeah.
And do you have anything you want to put forth?
Yeah, sure. So, like I said, we really want to be part of the community. We don't want to be making anybody uncomfortable in the community. We're always open to conversations and happy to have the community keeping an eye on the place and reporting things to us, because if we're not here to see it, then the community is our eyes and ears. So that's an important thing to us also. One of the things that I read in the report, the staff report, is they want green space and more trees and that kind of thing around, and I want that too, that we have some nice outdoor space for the youth. And makes me think of this empty spot down towards Concession Street would be a lovely spot for some community gardens. It's a great programming opportunity for the youth. It's an opportunity for the community to be involved in some community gardening if they choose.
Yeah, I actually volunteer at the Oak Street Garden. There's a
yeah.
large one. Have you seen it yet?
I have seen it. Yeah.
So I volunteer there.
Yeah. So, you know, it provides some food security for not only the people here, but for the other people in the community, and some skills. And sometimes you can have some pretty meaningful conversations with people while you're just, you know, digging in the dirt.
Well, wonderful. Thank you for your time.
You're
and
welcome.
I'll get this out to the community, and if there are any other questions, I trust I can
You
forward
bet.
them to you.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Well, good luck in your campaign, and
Thank you so much.
I hope things turn out the way you hope. And
Yeah.
yeah.
And we'll poke around a bit more.
Sure. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.